Bhagavadpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastanivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankarabhavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, let us do verse number 7 from Gyanankusham. We have completed 6 verses so far. Let's see, how many do we have altogether? We have 25. Long ways to go. We'll see if we want to continue or terminate it based on our trying to get everything reset by July 9th, as I had mentioned it to you. So we'll see. I think we have more Tuesdays than we have Saturdays, so we should be able to have quite a few of these. So anyway. All right, so number 7. So, as I've been doing, let me read the translation of the Vyakhya. So, there is a verse given by the original author and then a commentary on it called Vyakhya. And so then Swami Maheshananji gives a Hindi translation of the Vyakhya in these paragraphs. So let me read that first and then I'll translate that into English. Yadi samsar mein sare dehdhari achanchal buddhi wale kritagya मीठे स्वभाव वाले हितैषी सबसे आत्मवत व्यवहार करने वाले तथा निष्पक्ष हों तो निश्चय है कि सज्जन मोक्ष के लिए अधिक प्रयास नहीं करेंगे. So let me repeat it one more time. यदि संसार में सारे देहधारी अचंचल बुद्धि वाले कृतज्ञ मीठे स्वभाव वाले हितैषी सबसे आत्मवत व्यवहार करने वाले तथा निष्पक्ष हों तो निश्चित है कि सज्जन मोक्ष के लिए अधिक प्रयास नहीं करेंगे. This is the central theme of this verse. And so as usual, this is to create a pratipaksha bhavana. A pratipaksha bhavana, this is what is called Gyanankusham. So a hitting of the buddhi of, it's not a physical hitting, but a mental hitting of the jiva, just like a physical hitting of the elephant. This is a mental hitting of the jiva so that you have a better way to understand problems created by other people towards you. This is the crux of it. Pratipaksha bhavana. Pratipaksha bhavana means an antidote Antidote means that if someone does something to you or says something to you, creates a situation to you which is unwelcome by you and is a big problem for you, so that is a situation. The question is, what is the best way to neutralize it? What is the best way? You can either just let it go and seethe inside, that and then this can just reverberate where you keeps on saying, the world is turning against me. Why are people giving me so many problems? What's wrong with me? All kinds of issues and so on. And that's one way to kind of put it under the rug and don't look at it because you're afraid to look at it. This is one way. The other one is to create an antidote and to neutralize it. So these are all bhavanas, all aids for us, mental aids for us to create this pratipaksha bhavana. Okay, so here's the English translation. He says, if in this world, yadi samsar mein sare dehadhari, if in this world all human beings, so I'll do it maybe a word by word so you can understand it. Achanchal buddhi wale, if all human beings in this world are endowed with firm wisdom. Achanchal means one which doesn't flicker. Chanchal means one that flickers, goes up and down, and good one day, bad. But achanchal means one which is steady, with steady wisdom. If all human beings in this world are endowed with steady wisdom and are grateful, they have an attitude of being grateful, they are of pleasant disposition, meethe swabhav wale, sathitaishi, anxious to do good for others, atmavat vyavhar karne wale, treating others as themselves, looking at others as somebody very similar to me, and nishpaksha, never taking sides of saying this is good, this is bad. If this is the case, if everybody, all human beings are endowed with firm wisdom, are grateful, have a grateful disposition, have a very pleasant disposition, anxious to do good to others, treating others as themselves, and are never taking sides, then it is certain that for those of us who are seeking freedom in the form of moksha, the ultimate freedom, will never make serious attempts to do so. This is the thesis. Thesis is that if everybody in the world is so good, so they have talked about some specific qualities of goodness that we will explore. But if everybody is that good, then we will never strive for our own freedom. What? How is that possible? What has that got to do with my striving for freedom and how others behave? Is what we have to see. Okay, so the first thing is, let us see the qualities that we as Vivekis, we as students of Atma Vidya, the qualities that are inherent in those of us who are firmly trying to gain freedom through Atma Vidya. What are those qualities? What are those qualities that are synonymous with our trying to gain a sense of freedom? Okay, number one is we stay the course. We want to stay the course. And we have qualities that enable us to stay the course. This is good for us. Never wavering. Never wavering. It's not as though it's saying, I don't know. You may feel that you don't have to. I'm not making an ad or commercial for my classes or anything. You may feel that, I think I need to do something else. That's okay. But as far as the learning of Vedanta is concerned, you're not going to throw it out of the window one day and say, I don't know what all that was all about. I'm going to take up a different hobby. That doesn't happen. If that would have happened, you would not have really stayed with this course of action. And so one quality is this sameness of purpose, staying the course. And we also expect others to do the same. So this is a part of the thesis, okay, of this particular verse. So the thesis of this verse is, consider the qualities which we already enumerated. We're going to go through this one by one. Firm wisdom, gratefulness, pleasant disposition, anxious to do good for others, treating others as ourselves, never taking sides. These are the qualities that we naturally have acquired if we are serious about gaining wisdom, gaining freedom. And so what happens is that we expect others to have the same qualities. Like, for example, we want others to have steady mind. Instead of what we find is, this is interesting, we all go through this. Somebody kind of asks you, how are you doing? How are you doing? You didn't volunteer. They say, how was the last couple of years, COVID years to you? Tell me how you and your family are doing. This is an open invitation from someone. Okay? This is how we behave actually most of the time. So you say, well, I didn't really volunteer this information, but the other person, we just met after a while and they're asking, how am I doing? So you start to describe it. How am I doing? Oh, we were generally lucky, but one of our children, something like this. So you just do it. Right in the middle of your answer, you find that the person is looking around someplace else, not listening to you at all. They asked you for your answer, but now they are doing something else, and you can be very obvious. Not only the mental thing, but the other thing is you can see physically that they are not steady. As I was talking about it the other day, they are just moving around. They're looking around. It happens all the time. This is so interesting. We somehow love multitasking. We think this is a wonderful thing. Yes, I'm listening to you. But then they're also looking for others. And there's another TV program going, oh my gosh, they've got something going on in San Francisco. Just this afternoon, my wife was telling me that they have 74 car break-ins in San Francisco every day. 74. So while you're talking to somebody, you'll say, oh my gosh, look at what's happening in San Francisco. And then they'll say hi, and then they'll say, yeah, I'm listening to you. How would you feel? And how do you feel? Not would you feel. We see this very often. And we think about it and say, oh, this person is... basic is that it's just very obvious that they are not really sincere in their asking, how are you doing? They don't care less. There's just a social norm, how are you doing? See, this is what the Indian namaste is so good. It's really, I tell you, if you look at the depth in namaste, namaha te, I bow to you. You know what that really means? You are in front of me at this moment, and my attention is to you, as it should be. You don't say namaste, you say namaste. Namaste means please come. How are you? How are you doing? And then it's very nice to actually fold the hands, because folding the hands and disciplining your mind go together. You don't say namaste. You say namaste. That means that you bow a little bit, not as much as the Japanese do, who just bend all the way down. You bend a little bit, and then you also pay attention. But if somebody just says, how are you? Well, you say, really? You really asking me? Let me give you a 1 minute summary. While half a minute has not even gone by, they are on to other things. So the fickleness of things are something that those of us who are really on this path can notice very well. First of all, we should not be doing that to others. Our inquiry to others should not be very shallow, not just for the sake of it. We should be, if we don't say anything, don't say, how are you doing? Just say, very nice to meet you, and then that's it, be quiet. But if you do ask somebody, then follow through with it. And we expect the others to do the same thing, but they don't. Okay, so this is number one. Then the second one is called Kritagyaha. Kritagyaha means, is a very interesting word. Actually, this, I don't know, there's Swami Maheshananji has given these explanations at various points in this verse number 7. And so I don't know, I'll just do it once. I mean, I may mention it a bit later on, but let me explain the very first time this word comes up. This word is very interesting, called Kritagyaha. Kritagyaha means grateful. Grateful, being grateful to the... What do you mean by grateful? Gratefulness is explained by the etymology of this Sanskrit word Kritagyaha. Kritam Yaha, Kritam Yam as an accusative. Kritam Yam Tam Aham Janami Janati. I know what has been done for me, towards me. This is called Kritagya. Remembering what was done for me and what I owe back. This is exactly like you borrow some money from someone. This is very interesting. Sometimes if somebody says, do you have a $5 bill? This often happens sometimes. It happens to all of us when we have to give a tip to a person who parks your car. And these days are gone where you just $1 tip is enough. Don't give $1 tip to anybody these days, please. You have to a minimum of $3 and preferably a $5 bill. So if somebody says, oh my gosh, I have to give to this guy, do you happen to have a $5 bill in your pocket? And you'll fumble around. You say, yes, I do. He says, please, can I borrow it from you? Do you know something? When somebody borrows $5, do not expect to ever get it back. Never. And one trick of doing this is very interesting. If somebody borrows $5 and you have $5, you can give it to him. And you also have a $20 bill or $20, something. So if you make an excuse and say, I don't have a 5, but can I give you a 20 or $50? Why? For two reasons. One is that they are less likely to forget $50 than $5. Secondly, you will be not as shy about asking, oh, you borrowed $50 from me. Can I get that back? Do you have it now? You will never do it for $5. Anyway, so Kartavyata means gratefulness. It's very interesting. I was reading an article in one of the Indian magazines, that's a little while ago, about 2-3 years ago. And what they were doing were comparing the knowledgeable translators of Sanskrit. Here's what they were doing. I don't know how I got onto it, but it was a fascinating article. So they were actually evaluating the various so-called experts or who write either a dictionary or a commentary on the more important Sanskrit words and so on. And I hope that I'm not using the wrong names, but there is a very famous Berkeley professor, Dr. Goldman, Dr. and Mrs. Goldman, they're husband and wife, I believe. So they're supposed to be experts in Sanskrit. And so I think that this guy is evaluating, the one who was writing this article, he was making an evaluation of everybody. I remember this word. He says that when I compare the various translators as to how well they know the language, I zero in on some words. Well, you cannot do that thousands of words. It's difficult to do. So you take some representative words and say, how did this person translate it? How much, this much, and so on. He says, Goldman simply said, if it was Goldman, I apologize, maybe somebody else, but whoever, it was a Western translator, that they simply said, this is a grateful. Grateful means Kritagya. And he says the people who really know what it means, because the etymology is very important. So Kritagya means Kritam Janati, what one knows, what was done to me. You don't forget. So instead, Swami Maheshananji says, what we find is, just like we talked about the non-steadiness of the mind on the very first point, here what we'll say is, oh, well, he did it for their own good. Who does anything for others? I don't need to pay him back. I don't need to pay him back. This is one problem. The other problem is that indeed at one time you were truly grateful to them, but since then they have done some bad things to you. They lent you some money, which was a good thing. But later on, they became careless and they were criticizing you socially or whatever it is. So what happens is that the goodness that was done to you has been forgotten. It's been diluted. It was the word I was looking for. It's been diluted by some not so good things. Whereas in fact what you should do is to to look at the evaluation of what the goodness was. I'll tell you why I'm doing it, because this happened to me. We had a very interesting. There's a friend of mine that I've known for like since we were in MBA school, and this is in 69. Sorry, 69. Since 69, I've known him. So 31 plus 22, 53 years. And so what happened was, it was interesting. If I can just give you a personal, I won't name, he's still a very good friend of mine. I won't name him. So one day we were just talking, and he said, there is a very, very promising real estate deal, and I have been asking my friends to join me, and everybody seems to be very shy, and they have not really put any partnership together, and they say, I don't know, maybe it's too risky, let's not do this, and so on. Would you be interested in doing that? So I had already had a good steady job with Hewlett Packard at that time. So I says, okay, let's see it. So this was a fourplex in San Jose, when in those days the real estate was really not really all that hot. But we went to see the realtor, and all the financials worked out very well. I mean, I was already doing MBA, so I had some knowledge about how to evaluate all these things, present value, future value, all of those kinds of things, rate of return. And so he and I both sat down. We said, this makes sense. So he says, don't you think so? I said, yes, absolutely. So he says, so what do you think we should do? I says, let's walk in and put a deposit in. He says, really, you mean it? So I said, what do you mean? Of course, I have the cash for the deposit. You have it too, I presume. He says, yes. What's keeping us? Let's just do it. He says, he was kind of not believing me, because all the other friends kept saying, let's look at it again. Let's look at some comparables. And so I don't have the time to look at comparables. This one deal looks good. Let's go for it. Anyway, some great things happened after that. That investment has really flowered over the years, and it's just, we made tons of money. Then we did 1031 exchange, we got bigger properties and so on. It just worked out very well in the real estate in San Jose area. Okay, then here's the second part of the story. When we came back from PRC, after the ashram 2.5 years, I needed to get my job back, which I did, and so I started to save some money again. So one day the same friend told me, he says, my wife and I were looking to move our home, because our home in Los Gatos was kind of small. We had 2 grown-up children. It has 1,900 square feet. So we thought, either we add something or go someplace else. So we decided, let's look around. Same friend told me there is a very good property in Los Altos Hills. This is the one that I'm living in now. And they are not able to sell it. And I've already put a deposit in. Would you like to see it? I said, sure, let's do it. I didn't have enough money, but I begged, borrowed, and stole, or somehow or the other put the deposit in. We bought this property. This property has done very well. Excellent. We have been blessed with beautiful property and so on. Since then, this friend of mine has created some problems between us. Not bad problems, but he's had some issues with us and so on and so forth. But do you know that I've give myself very good marks? Despite that, I have never forgotten what a good deed he did for me for this property, to this day. And I did too also for buying that property. So I'm a Kritagya Even though some of the recent things he has done are not to my liking, but I just said, you know what? You have to weigh what is really major versus what are some minor things. So here Swamiji Maheshanji also makes the same point. He says, a very good quality is to be Kritagya. In fact, he goes on to say that both the Shruti and the Smriti makes a point that if you do not repay something that was given to you, the papam, the bad karma, is never forgotten for you for several lives. Other things may be forgiven, but not this. So this is a very important thing, that if you borrowed, and you better pay them back. This is a very important thing to do. And not only pay them back, but also be grateful to them for having, never forget that what was done to you. This is called Kritagya. Okay. Then let's go on. I think we may run out of time. I hope not. The third one is a pleasant, sweet disposition. Meethe swabhav wale. Meethe means sweet. So here just means that transacting with others, what really is very important is that you deal with them on a pleasant basis, not on a harsh basis. And even when you have some domestic help, we had a huge water leak in the last 2 rains, and just today we had so many workers here. And yes, you pay them adequate, whatever they wanted, I just give it to them and give them a 10 or 12% tip. But more than that, how you deal with them, how you talk to them, offer them some water, some cold drinks, and see if they need anything. Let them use the bathroom if you have a spare bathroom. So this dealing with people on a sense of pleasantness is very important. Sometimes you'll say, well, I don't know, they're just workers to me. I don't have to be pleasant to them. They are getting enough money and so on. No. People remember the softness of your disposition long after the work has been done. And again, what I'm saying is that in all of these theses, we now naturally do this. I am sure you all are. I'm not saying I am very pleasant, you are not. I'm not. We do this very naturally. But the thing is that we expect others also to be doing this. But they don't. So you notice it. You notice it. Just the other day, what was it? Yeah. I know my mother-in-law had a chance to go to the Social Security office with my wife. So my wife took her there they had some issues with Social Security. They came back and said, my goodness, we have not seen such rudeness in a long, long time. They were just so rude to them. There's no need for it. They're government officials, yes, we know it. I'm sure that this is the same thing everywhere. All the government, most of the government is rude, very unpleasant to deal with. No sweetness of disposition whatsoever. What do you want? Okay, well, this is not the right place. You better go there. Where? Just go ask somebody else. I don't have the time. Very normal. And it's all over the same place. Passport office in the US, whether in US or you are in Punjab in India, same passport problems. Immigration, same issues. All the government officials are the same. And private people know this, so this is all self-serving in that sense. The private industry, they will all be saying, "Hi, how are you? Can I help you?" It's all made up. There is no real sincerity. Although if you've been doing it for a long time, it becomes a second nature. I remember when I was working for HP. This is a long time ago. This is the only time we had a meeting in New Orleans. And it was a funny thing because when we went to New Orleans, there was a hurricane approaching. So we had a 3-day meeting, and next morning we had to leave right away. So we never really saw the city very much. But one memory I have on New Orleans is how pleasant the people were. Even at the airport, taxis and so on. "How are you? So nice to see you." And everybody said, "You know what? New Orleans is a town for people to spend their holidays and so on. They're used to doing it. That has become part and parcel of their nature." So anyway, sweetness of speech is something which is common, natural to Vedantins, and we notice it if it is not there in the others. Then the next one is Hitaishi. Hitaishi means one who is thinking of hitam. Hitam means one of goodness, helpfulness for others. So I'm not just thinking of myself all the time. I'm also thinking about others. How does it affect you? And so on. Anyway, you know all of that. I think we'll visit if we need to. Okay, then another one is treating others as we are. We expect others to be as we are. We have certain likes and dislikes. We expect others to have the same likes and dislikes. Why can't people be like this? Because I think of ourselves as being normal. We are just we are normal people. It's not as though we are great or anything like this, but we're normal, good people. And if people don't behave normally according to my definition, then they grate on me. Why? What's wrong with this guy? They have some very strange way of treating likes and dislikes and so on. And you can extend this to the next one, which is and as you progress in the understanding of Vedanta, we are told initially, and then we have to now see this in life, that my Atma is the same Atma in others. And you may not completely grasp this because we don't remember it in our transactions. But a partial way of looking at it is something which is not very difficult to do, which is, this is the thing that do unto others as others you want to others to do to you. So we feel that we are all human beings. So this lack of racism, for example, is embedded in this, that whether you are a black or a white or a brown, we're all human beings. And so we should treat each other similarly. And not take sides of one kind or the other. We may not understand fully yet that the Atma is exactly the same, is not similar. Right now we are at the level of similarity. People have the same ideas and so on and so forth as I do. So you have a certain bond with them, of similarity, which is actually the same person. Anyway, so even the this similarity is also one of the fundamental parts of the vision of the Vedantins, and we expect others also to be like that. Anyway, so these are the qualities. Okay, now let's go on. Here the thesis is, and we haven't even come to the main one yet. Thesis is, if everyone is like that, everyone is endowed with the qualities that I think I am. At least I think I am. I may not have them, but at least I think I have them. As a Vedantin. Now I'm not talking about me personally, but as a Vedantin. As a student of Vedanta, we think we are endowed with these, more or less these qualities. We may fall down here and there, but by and large, we are there's a couple of things I wanted to make sure that I don't forget. I think I might expand on some of them a little bit later on. But anyway, so if everyone has these qualities, there is going to be a problem in my striving for moksha in my life. This is what needs to be understood, and we'll explain this in more detail in a minute, but that's the initial statement. That's what he says, यदि संसार में सारे देहकारी ऐसे हों तो निश्चित है कि सज्जन मोक्ष के लिए अधिक प्रयास नहीं करेंगे. That means that the Vedantin who wants to complete the journey will not do the extra work. Why they will not do the extra work? It will come in a minute, in a few minutes. So this is the thesis. And so here, now a part of that thesis is that just getting an introduction to Vedanta is not enough, as we know by now. Gaining a sense of ownership and wisdom of those principles that I have been introduced to, that is what I need to do. Otherwise, it will just remain on the books somewhere, and it doesn't really pertain to me. I behave one way, and the books are saying something else to me. So what this means is the outcome of this thesis is, it is not an easy task to own up to all these qualities that I should have. And I won't gain the sense of freedom until I really possess those qualities in its full value. And I just happen to be reading, it's interesting, you read different texts and they all point out to similarities of this. So I just happen to be reading the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So here, Krishna says, this is chapter 7, verse 14. You can look that up. Daivi hi yesha gunamayi mama mama duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Daivi hi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva me ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. What this means is, this sense of freedom is difficult to get. Maya duratyaya dukkhena atyati. It is not easy to cross the prakriti of Maya. Maya means prakriti, means very natural. So when we are born, so this is what is called, is interesting sometimes, this is given, even Adi Shankara will refer to it. He'll talk about Prakrita Purusha. Prakrita Purusha. Prakrita means one who is the way generally as the person is born. Natural. It's kind of like a stone which hasn't been carved yet. It has this amorphous feel to it. It's a natural stone. You can take, so if you have an artist that wants to make a murti of something, a Rama murti, then what you do is to take a natural stone, which is a full, it's a huge stone with one piece. It doesn't have pieces to it. And then you start carving it. And then, after a while, this stone, which is a natural stone, becomes a very beautiful vigraha of Sri Rama. So similarly, each one of us, when we are born, we are Maya-mayi. Maya-mayi means prakrita. We are just natural. Natural means that we are just sukhi-dukhi, dealing with people with the normal things and so on, have no sense of what we need to do, what our path is, what my goal is, what my potential is. All of that we don't know. It's like a child that has no idea what's going on. All it does is sleep and eat. That's it. So he says, the thesis means is that just like an artist also has to work very hard to transform a natural stone into a vigraha of Rama or Krishna or of Hanuman or anyone, there's a lot of effort required to do it. So the average person is not like that. Prakriti Purusha is not like that. They are wandering around between birth and death and birth and death and birth and death and so on. Okay? So the question is, why quarrel with such people? What is the sense in quarreling with them? What it means is, that's just a natural way, they're going to rub against you once in a while. They're going to do it. That's going to happen. Why? Because their values are completely different. They don't have this single-mindedness that we talked about this sthairyam of body and so on and so forth, and a lot of other things. They don't have that. And so therefore, they're going to rub against you. Why don't you see then that that's very natural? It is going to happen. Why do you expect them that they will be like you? And here are the disadvantages of expecting that they should be like you. We'll go over that in a minute. So, in the second, I'm following the outline of Swami Maheshananji's explanation. He has given a little bit more detail about each one of them. And I think I've already spent a lot of time on sthirata, kritagnyata, madhurata, hitaishita. All of these I've already done it. But I think a little bit might be, a little addition would be good. Take sthirata. This is an interesting one to look at it. Remember we were talking about when you are talking to someone and their mind wanders and their body language is different and so on. So that one. Okay, now here sthirata means that for Vedantin, you have made a choice for a few things that have become part and parcel of your personality. We are sure of it. Like, for instance, telling a truth in everything. What that means is that, God forbid, if at every step you have to ask yourself, on this occasion should I tell the truth or not, you need to go back to the drawing board again. That should not happen. Speaking truth should be given in your life. It doesn't mean that you don't fall down rarely here and there. And there you will feel it that I didn't tell the truth. I should have really, but anyway. So you've now assimilated truth to the point that you don't have to, here Swamiji uses a Hindi word called avasar. Avasar means occasion based. So this is my filling out the tax forms. Should I tell the truth here or not? Telling somebody about this no. You tell the truth no matter what happens. Okay, so this is one thing. And also, so this is what is called Kartavyata. What should be done is called Kartavyaha. Tavya pratyaya means what is needed to be done. So here Kartavya means what needs to be done. What needs to be, and that means that you keep in mind not, so this is the thing. This is Kartavyata, or the other one is your individual gain in any one particular situation. So the truth has to be told whether you are gaining or losing. That's a secondary thing altogether. And sometimes telling the truth you may lose. So be it. But you don't give up the truth. So this is Thirata. Kritagyata we have done now quite a bit. Let's talk about the pleasantness, madhurata, and also hitaishi. Both of them, let's look at it together. So here, speaking the truth doesn't mean that you give up pleasantness and a sense of being good to the other person. It is interesting. So here, Shruti says, Satyam bruyat. May you tell the truth. Priyam bruyat. May you think of goodness, of love to somebody else. Na bruyat satyam apriyam. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat satyam apriyam. Telling the truth doesn't mean that you have to hurt someone. Once in a while you will see this. This is not very often, but you will see that. He says, you know what? My nature is to tell the truth. If people don't like it, it is their problem. No, siree. This is not correct. So don't tell anything. Just be quiet. If it hurts someone. He gives an example. There's so many interesting examples of this. So one of them is, for example, suppose you have a person who criticizes another person that you both know. So they both know a person, and then you say, that fellow, a terrible guy. He just doesn't really think what is to be done, and I don't understand why he's doing these kinds of things. He's saying all this about another person that we both know. Then later on, you meet this person who was being criticized. What will you do? You'll say, let me tell you the truth. You know that person? He is so critical of you. He thinks that you are not a good person. Will you ever do that? Is it sensible to do that? If you want to just listen to the guy, just be quiet and say, okay, you had some problems with him and so on. Okay, I sympathize with it and so on. Don't go and tell anybody else like that. Here's I remember the example Swami Dayananji had given, and which is almost like a real life example, that there was a woman who was running away for some really bad people, some people who were after her and so on. So she outran them somehow or the other, and she entered this hermitage where the sage was sitting there doing meditation. So she said, Swamiji, please save me. Oh, these people are really after me. Can I hide in your hermitage? So he says, yes, absolutely. Go into that room and go in the corner and so on. And he started going, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So these bad people came to him and say, hey, have you seen this woman running? What he's going to say? Because tell the truth. Never tell untruth. Yes, she's hiding right there on that room, over there. He has to say, woman? What woman? What are you talking about? I haven't seen anybody. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. He has to put a straight face. So all these things are connected. It doesn't mean that you just look at it theoretically. Okay, maybe we should try to now. We haven't really made the same points yet. So this is all the background. Yeah, there's some other points, but I think they're very similar. So, what is, now let's summarize. So what is the basis for all the above qualities? What is the basis for all the above qualities? It is to look at others as similar to yourself. So this is what's called paratma bhutaha. And only such a person will be able to display all these qualities. The one who is headed in this direction, who is very interested in gaining total freedom. And so you have done Viveka, Vairagya, Sampatti, all the Chatushtaya Sampatti, all of those are all part of this. Thirata, Kritagyata, Madhurata, Hitaishita. All of them are natural things that we become endowed with when we go in this journey. And so we want others also to be exactly like this. Okay? So, one other thing, before we summarize, one other thing. as far as myself is concerned, our own self is concerned, we don't have any problems. We don't have any problems. Meaning that it is very clear what is beneficial for us. Very clear what is beneficial for us. If we do an action which is not beneficial for us, it is due to ignorance rather than a deliberate action to hurt ourselves. So for this very common thing is choice of food. Choice of food. I mean, I'm from the north and we have not had a tradition of spicy food as the southerners in India have. We eat some fried things in Punjab, but not spicy as much. So somehow, if you just look at my own disposition, I don't take to spicy food very well. But you know what? I like it. I like spicy food. But it doesn't agree with me. And I always have to watch it. So here's what happens. This is Swami Maheshwarji's very, very beautiful thing. He says, nobody eats the wrong kind of food which will say, I'm eating this spicy food, I am going to be very sick. My tummy ache is going to be terrible. And I may have burning sensation and all of those kinds of things. I'm really amazed at sometimes how the people from the south are able to eat that. I almost like admire it. What? If I eat that, I'll be in deep trouble. But I never eat that thinking that I will be in deep trouble. If I do eat it, it is by a false hope that, sometimes maybe I will be able to tolerate it. It's okay. I like it. I like the spicy food, even though my body doesn't tolerate it. But I don't think it'll be okay. I'll be okay. It's not okay. Anyway, the point is, the thesis is that Swami Maheshwarji says, the attitude that we have for ourselves is very good. We don't have any compromises. I do everything for own good and so on. But I don't have the same attitude towards others. Let's see how much I have to go. I don't have the attitude towards others. Why? Because I don't treat others exactly like I am. But you know what? I expect others to be like that. They are not behaving that way, but I expect them to behave that way. Now we can close the books. What will happen is, suppose they are all exactly the same way as you and I are. Everybody has the same likes and dislikes. Everybody is very pleasant. They all tell the truth. They repay their debts, all of those kinds of things. If that happens, and this is the main thesis, this is the end point of what we're doing. Do you know something? We talked about the difficulty of understanding the freedom that duratyaya, maya tu duratyaya, what Krishna said, Sri Krishna said on the 7th chapter. That will not happen. That will not happen. Why? Why will it not happen? For several reasons. It requires a lot of effort for us to see where I'm going wrong, what the problems are. If my life is very pleasant, and not only my life is pleasant, everybody else's life is all pleasant, there is no occasion for me to improve. I won't even feel there is anything wrong. In fact, this is exactly what happens when you have these societies that are very well-to-do. They are all doing well. You know, this is the thing. If you look at, I'm just giving you one example of that. So suppose you are a young person and you've had a very good education, and now you've got a very good job with the local companies, Apple, Google, Facebook, etc. And you got married, and your wife is also working, your children are doing well, and then you go to all these restaurants, like very expensive restaurants, and then you go to a bar for drinks. This is what happens. You see all these young people and so on and so forth, and they're working from home, and everybody is just doing that. There's no problem in their lives for the time being. There's no occasion to think. Because this is not going to continue. But they don't know that. They think that this is okay, this is the way it should be. So one example is, Swami Dayananda used to give that. He says, there was a filmmaker who made a film, and he says, the normal agenda in the Indian films is that you have a very good hero and a heroine, very beautiful person, very beautiful couple. All of a sudden some villain comes in and just creates problems for them, and they have to fight and so on and so forth. In the end, the hero beats the villain, wins the heart of this young lady, and they are, there's a lot of fighting, etc. In the end, they are united. This is the normal formula for Indian movies. So there's a lot of fighting, a lot of gundagardi and all that. So this one filmmaker said, you know what? I think people don't like all of this, because I just think that it should be talking about the goodness in life. So he says, I'm going to make a film where there is nothing badness. So you have this young couple who are the most good looking, they are very loyal to their parents, very top of the class, everybody loves them, good health, and they get great jobs with the best companies, they have lovely children, and they have parties, and their grandparents are just so helpful. And then the movie ends. So he shows it to his wife and said, we have come up with these new ideas. We only have pleasantness in this movie. So I just want you to see what you think about it. She says, stop it. You're going to be a complete failure. Where is the rub? You need to have some contrast. How will you see the goodness unless there is some badness? Don't do it. Absolutely not. So this is exactly the same thing. That if the whole world will be to be like us, just exactly like we are, how would we even try for moksha? Because you say, well, death is going to come. Let death comes. We are all enjoying ourselves. There is no problem. No one bothers me. No one bothers me. No one creates any incentive for me to be better, because there is no rub anywhere. he says you'll be doing yourself a lot of disservice. It's something like um, if you, for those of us that have been out of India for a long time, and especially people like myself who have a weak disposition, quite frankly, let me tell you the truth. I am in the US because the Indian air and the water and so on did not suit me for 23 years. I was so sick all the time. And when I came back here, I'm much healthier. I'm not perfect, but I am much healthier. If I go back, the same problems occur. So for those of us that have not gained an immunity for just going to the neighborhood shop and getting all these golgappas and chaat and so on and so forth, we can't do it. So you know what we do? We go there and we make sure you only go to people that use boiled water for making chaat. Somehow you have to know that. And you always take these nice bottled waters for drinking. You never do that. Will you ever know whether you have developed an immunity? Really speaking, moksha, a sense of moksha, is the ultimate in gaining immunity. This is what it is. You need to gain immunity to the world. No matter what happens, it does not bother you. This is our objective. But how will you know that you have gained immunity? If I go to India and if I'm taking all these boiled waters and bottled waters and so on, I will never know whether I am immune to that or not. If you really want to test your immunity, you have to eat pani puri at the dirtiest shops that you can find. And if you can stand it, you've gained it. Until then, by just drinking boiled water, you're not going to test yourself. So similarly, if we have people who are all similar to us, they don't rub us the wrong way, how will we know whether we can overcome the adversity of life? So really speaking, if anybody rubs you the wrong way, instead of reacting against it, mentally, you don't have to do that visibly, mentally thank them. Because you have to test, did I get out of shape through this transaction? Did I make my springs so, did I bring it out so much that it never goes back to the same? This is what Swami Dayananda used to say that, this is a very good expression. You are bent out of shape. The bent out of shape means that if there is a spring, that is, you're bending it, but if you release it, it goes back to the original shape. Then you are okay. But if you bend it to a point that it never regains its own original shape, you are bent out of shape. Similarly, Swamiji used to say that. He says, what you will find is that as you progress in this life towards the study and so on and so forth, it's very possible that you may be pushed here and there where you are upset at some things. But one of the hallmarks of certain progress in this path is that you regain your composure very quickly. But if it so happens, and this is exactly what happens for the Prakrita Purusha, the normal person, average person, that not only do you get upset, but the upsetness lasts for quite a while. This is the vasana. And you always are thinking, why that person said that to me? I don't know why you do that. I don't like this. You are continuously thinking. A wise person says, okay, we had a fight or something, some quarrel, done with. This is a very beautiful quality that children have. So the children have a very nice quality we must learn from them. So what they do is they will want something from the parents, and the parent says, no, I'm sorry, you cannot have that. He says, no, Mom, I need to have, so there's a big quarrel, and they sometimes burst into tears and all kinds of this, that, or the other. Then it's over. It's over. And they wipe their tears and so on and say, okay, you can have a little bit. Okay, don't do that again and so on. Whatever it is, some kind of a compromise is made. Now, come back 15 minutes later, here's what happens. The parents are still upset. Why did the children, what's wrong with this child? Am I bringing up the child the wrong way? The child has forgotten. There is no vasanas or anything. It was a fight, it is done with. So sometimes actually they say that a wise person, there's some very interesting comparisons for that. They say that the wise person should be like a child. How? In these kinds of examples. And it should also be like a madman. You see a madman who is laughing for no reason whatsoever. We all need to have a reason. Unless something good has happened, I'm not going to be smiling and laughing. But you see a mad person who is just sitting there, just happy and so on. You ask, hey, why are you happy? He says, I don't know. So they say that sometimes the wisdom also means you have to be like a mad person. You're happy without any reason. Really not completely true. It means you don't need to have a cause for being happy. You are the very swarupa of being happy. So it's not as though it is, you just have an inner smile. Anyway, so the basic thesis is that unless the world rubs you, you will not improve. And if everybody is exactly like you, they won't rub you. You won't have a chance to test against developing an immunity. So be grateful. Don't criticize them. Inside, just say thank you for giving the opportunity to test myself. So that is the end result of this verse number 7. The end lesson, the lesson for number 7. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Anyway, so the basic thesis is Good to see you all. So nice to see you all. Wonderful. And we will hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.